What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another swatch review for you. So today we are talking about the Mooncat Lost in a Folktale collection. Just a quick note, this isn't their most recent collection. I'm a little bit behind on swatches and I was gonna combine them into one video, this collection and the next collection, but I haven't gotten that set yet and a lot of you are eager to see these, so I figured I would just go ahead and review them separately. So the Lost in a Folktale collection consists of 6 new polishes. We've got a variety of different finishes here. We've got some flakies, we've got some shimmers, we even have a magnetic shade, and they're all very vibrant, but they're also very ethereal, so they match the theme very nicely. If you haven't heard of Mooncat before, they are a nail polish brand that is based in the US, and all of their products are 10 free, meaning they are free of 10 of the potentially harmful ingredients that can be found in nail polish. They are vegan, meaning they do not use any animal-derived ingredients, and they're cruelty-free, meaning they do not test their products on animals. So yeah, we've got a pretty eclectic mix of polishes going on here, so let me swatch them for you. Then we can talk a little bit more about my thoughts on them, my thoughts on this collection versus the last collection that I reviewed from them, and we can also talk pricing, availability, all that good stuff. So roll the swatch footage. So as with all of my swatch and review videos, I am using base coat underneath all of my swatches just to protect my natural nail and prevent any stains. Today I'm using the Orly Bonder base coat. So we'll start off with this first shade, Pixiestick, and this one is a pearly iridescent shimmer. And I actually thought at first that this was going to be a sheer, but I did manage to get pretty full coverage in 3 coats, although I have to say it looked so stunning in one coat. Just having that sheer wash of shimmer over the naked nail looked so beautiful. I feel like it's very bridal and it just adds a little elegance to the nail without giving too much color, but I did want to see what it looked like full coverage. There's really a whole rainbow of colors going on, but I would say that the shimmer itself mostly looks greenish into blue, although you can see at certain angles there's just a little bit of that like pinky yellow vibe going on as well. So definitely a very versatile shade. I think it looks perfect in any amount of coats that you want to do, and honestly I think every way you wear it could be a very pretty bridal color, but it's also just pretty for any time. Next we have the shade Poisonberry, which is a soft purple base that has a really intense blue purple shimmer running throughout, as well as a subtle little hollow sparkle running throughout. And this is the kind of formula that I've begun to associate with Mooncat, just having these colors with a shimmer and then a little touch of hollow sparkle. In the second coat, I thought it looked just a touch too sheer. There were some areas that were more opaque than others, so I ended up trying a third coat and that gave me really nice coverage. Again, you could just see that level of hollow sparkle in there. I think that the shimmer looks a little bit more intense in real life than it does on camera because it just has this intense bluey purple vibe to it that even though it's the same kind of color as the base, it adds a lot of contrast because the base is a very soft pale color and the shimmer is a very intense color. Moving on, we have the shade Flight of the Monarchs, and I was so intrigued by this polish in the bottle. It almost looks like this fiery copper shade, but once I started applying it, I realized it is so much more than that. It's actually what looks like a fuchsia, maybe purple jelly base, and then it is packed with this shimmer that looks orangey copper into a golden yellow. So in 2 coats, I thought it looked so stunning. It was very sheer, but it also gave a lot of color to the nail. And this is the exact type of shimmery sheer jelly that I love. But I was also curious to see what it looked like with a little bit more full coverage. So I ended up applying a third coat and I was so blown away by this color. I think it's so different from anything I own, just that you can see that pinky purple kind of base color coming through, but then when the light hits it, getting that full shimmer color is just so stunning. So definitely loved this shade. Moving on, we have the shade Weeping Willow, and this one is a magnetic polish, but it's this really deep foresty kind of green, and there's actually a really intense shimmer going around the edges of it. Looking at it, it's hard to tell, but it actually looks like it might be a little bit reflective. You know, those reflective glitters that almost look cartoony in the light? I feel like there are certain angles where I moved my hand around and those little extra glitters almost looked unreal. So I think that might be what it is. But the way I like to do my magnetic polishes is I'll do full coverage for that color and then I will apply a third or however many coat of it to apply the magnet to while it's still wet. And this one did give me full coverage in 2 coats. Honestly, unmagnetized, I thought it looked so stunning. I might actually prefer it a little bit without the magnet, but of course I did want to see what it looked like magnetized, so I applied a nice thick third coat and I went in with my magnet and hovered it over in the cat eye style to get that nice line of magnetic pigment. And I think it actually looked a little bit more subtle than some magnetic polishes I have, but it did really show all of that intense green in that magnetic line, and then around the edges you saw a lot more of that deeper foresty kind of green. I also tried doing it in the Aura style, but I found that it didn't really change too much, so I think that this one is probably going to be just for cat eyes, or honestly might just wear it without the magnet. Next up we have the shade Stumped, and let me tell you, I was so not expecting what I got in this bottle, and I am so pleased about it because looking at it in the bottle, I thought that it was going to be a black jelly with all of these iridescent flakes in here, but as soon as I started applying it, I realized it's actually a really gorgeous brown jelly. And oh my gosh, I love the combination of a brown nail polish with iridescent flakes. There's just something about it that looks so magical to me, and I think it's just so appropriate that this came in a fairy tale inspired collection because this just looks like beautiful magical leaves on a stunning tree, and oh, I can't get enough of it. It gave me perfect coverage in 3 coats. There's still a little bit of that jelly-like sheerness to it, but it did cover up my visible nail line fully because we have so many intense iridescent flakes in there, and oh, I just can't get enough of it. It is stunning. And last but not least, we have the shade Shroomdom, and this one is a red jelly base, and I thought this was actually going to be a similar formula to Stumped, but it's a little bit different. We do have the iridescent flakes in there, but they are smaller and they're also a lot more variant in sizes. So you can see there's some that almost just look like a little sparkle, and then there's some bigger ones, and this one actually ended up giving me full coverage in 2 coats, so it completely covered up my visible nail line, and it almost had more of a cream-like finish once I did get those 2 coats on. It's a really stunning shade. Whenever I see these sort of rich reds and golds, I always think Lunar New Year, and I think this is such a stunning Lunar New Year color, but I feel like a bright red like this also works for any warm season. So here are all of the polishes together, and although each of them is a pretty different type of finish and formula, I am so pleased with all of these colors. They all bring in different elements and finishes of that sort of fairy tale, fantastical, magical feeling, and I just think that's such a perfect theme when applied to spring colors because it makes such beautiful ethereal shades in somewhat springy colors while still making them more interesting than your basic spring pastels. So very pleased with that. Also very happy with the formulas here. I think they applied really well. I think they look so stunning on the nail. I know I was a little bit harsh on the last Mooncat review I did, but this more than made up for it. I think they all came out really gorgeous, and I'm very into this collection. So yeah, those are the polishes, and overall I am really impressed with them. I did recently do a video where I reviewed some of their new shades for spring, and to be honest, I didn't enjoy those. I didn't think that the formula was up to par for what I expect from Mooncat, but I think that this collection more than made up for it. I think the shades are really stunning. I think the formulas were very easy and workable, and overall it was just a very different experience. So I am glad that I'm continuing to use Mooncat, but I already knew that I was going to continue using them because I really enjoy the brand. And I also really enjoyed the color story of this, even though there were a lot of different finishes. I think they work really well for the theme, and I think it's really interesting take on springy colors. I know a few of you were wondering how these compared to the ILNP, also fairy tale folklore themed kind of collection. I would say they're very different. They have similar ethereal fantasy kind of vibes, but overall the 2 collections are very different. And honestly, I love the inspiration. I think it's it's just such a fun idea, and I think that's such a good spring vibe while also bringing in those really vibrant colors that I love this time of year. So these polishes come in 12 milliliter bottles. They do have a wide flat brush that has a rounded tip. It's a little bit stiffer than the usual nail polish brush, but I don't think that that really hinders the application unless you're working with a more difficult formula, which these I didn't find to be. The price does vary based on the finish of the polish that you're purchasing, but on the Mooncat website, they generally are from $14 to $16 USD each. And Mooncat is also selling the bundle of all 6 of these polishes, and that retails for $79 USD. So I'm gonna link that all in the description. You can check that out if you're interested. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What do you think of these polishes? Have you tried them? Which color is your favorite? Leave it all in the comments. We can chat about it. If you enjoy my swatch and review videos, please give this one a thumbs up. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. And of course, a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon, my Royal Astronomer Amanda M, as well as my Cosmic Admirals, Rocky Man's Daughter, Paula, Ken, Rosie, and Courtney. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Today's fun fact question comes from Patreon supporter Dominique, and Dominique wants to know, what is your least favorite / most reviled type of nail art? That's actually tough because I think for the most part I do enjoy all types of nail art. I do think it's really fun when people get a little weird with it and do something funky. So even if I personally wouldn't have it on my nails, I tend to still appreciate it. But one kind of nail art that I can't get past is the ones that are just like meant to be gross. I've seen, and I hope I never see again, people who have like pimple nail art where you can like actually pop the pimple and like stuff oozes out, which I think is honestly disgusting. That's just me. And honestly probably a lot of other people. I'm not a fan of that. I also don't like when people do encapsulated bugs. I think that's super gross as well. And just anything that's basically just kind of like a gross representation on your nails. I think that weird, funky, ugly kind of designs are interesting, but I don't know how to explain it. But when it's just like, I don't know, gross things, then I'm kind of grossed out by it, I'm not gonna lie. And then actually there is one type, I think it's cool in theory, but the idea of it kind of makes me cringe, is when I see nail art where there's like a hole in the nail and they've almost like pierced it. To be honest, I think it's really cool, but there's something just like my gut instinct is to cringe away from it because I'm always imagining it somebody's real nail being pierced. But I would say 99% of the time it's acrylic tips or something where they've just cut a little hole into it. But I don't know, my first instinct is like, ugh, actually that's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know, just the gross stuff I'm not a fan of. But if you'd like to leave your least favorites in the comments, we can chat about it and you can gross me out even more. So let me know, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.